Tunde Onakoya is a Nigerian national chess master and coach. He is the convener of Chess in Slums Africa, a devoted chess player who firmly believes that the game of chess can be wielded as an influential educational instrument to improve young lives and produce a new generation of intellectuals, even from underprivileged communities. He founded Chess in Slum Africa in 2017. This non-profit organization utilizes the game of chess as a tool for social intervention, a bridge between disadvantaged kids and their ambitions, a framework to give children in impoverished communities access to tuition-free education, learning resources, and mentorship opportunities. Slowly and steadily, the project is rewriting a new narrative and building an inclusive future for every African child. The Chess Slums initiative has provided the world with success stories of slum children who became mega media sensation from just learning chess in their slum environments of Ikorodu, Makoko, and the infamous Oshodi under the bridge in Lagos. These stories have been published by international reporting agencies, mainly BBC, Al Jazeera, Dutch Welle, AFP, and MSN. Through Tunde Onakoya, whose idea and passion for this drive spawned the emergence of a new strategy for social intervention program, Chess in Slums is a growing success as the initiative has impacted the lives of over 500 children and has successfully gotten fully funded educational scholarships for over 100 of those children to local and international institutions. Tunde Onakoya won the JCI 10 Outstanding Young Persons of Nigeria Award for contributing to children, world peace, and human rights in 2022. Won the Trend Up Award for Force of Social Good in 2022 and the Royal Africa Award in 2022. Ladies and gentlemen, let's make welcome Tunde Onakoya.
No one should have all that power. Thank you very much for having me. I want to stand on existing protocol to honor our esteemed Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation, and the representative of the Vice President, and all of the kinsmen gathered here today. My name is Tunde Onakoya, and I'm a National Master of Chess. When I was invited by I Choose Life Foundation, let's give them a round of applause. That didn't and I was told that I will be speaking on the topic, Innovate tomorrow, today. I thought about what I wanted to share with everyone, and I just decided to speak on building a future that includes all of us. Because, the world is changing, the world is rapidly evolving, and Anderson Horowitz would say technology is eating the world, right? We're slowly entering into the fourth industrial revolution, and technology is changing everything. The world is being driven by software technology, but then it doesn't include all of us yet, because there's still so many people that do not have the capacity to function in this future that we talk about. This future doesn't include them. And when we build a future that is innovative, that doesn't include over 50% of the people that should partake in that future, they will become a liability to that future. So there's no future worth dreaming of if it doesn't include all of us. And I'll tell you a story, and I'll tell you what I did that has brought me to this place. I grew up in a place in Lagos called Ikorodu. Ikorodu is a very small place. A place in Ikorodu called Isalodo, a slum community. And at a point in my life, I couldn't go to school anymore. So I had to drop out for 2 years because my parents just couldn't afford it. And in that time, my parents had given up on me getting an education. And because my primary school education was already really bad, I couldn't speak English after primary 6. I couldn't write properly. And I had to drop out again because, there was no hope anyway. But then something happened. I saw something. I saw a chessboard at a barbering salon where I used to go to play video games. And I was curious. I wanted to know what it was because I had never seen anything like that before. I was fascinated by the way the pieces were carved. And I asked what this was. And he said, oh, it's a chessboard. It's a game for highly intelligent people. And I told him that I wanted to be highly intelligent so that he should teach me. And he said I was too young. But I didn't give up because I was a very curious child. And I wanted to know why he would sit all by himself, racking his brain and thinking and reading books. So I would always watch him play. And whenever his friends came around, I would sit down quietly and watch them. After some time, I was able to learn the rules of the game. And I knew how to play just by watching. Eventually, I got back to school because my mom made a sacrifice for me. But that's a story for another day. Fortunately, the school I attended had chess as part of the curriculum. So I just fit right into it. And my coach just discovered that I was gifted. And so they would take me out for tournaments. And for a boy from a very small place in Ikorodu, wouldn't have the confidence to think that his gift could change the world. I found something that I was really good at. And that being good at that one thing gave me the confidence to impress my talent on the world. And I won a tournament and I came home with a trophy. And I saw my dad cry for the first time. I had done something that made him so proud. And that was me as a 12-year-old kid then, believing that if I could be good at something that was meant for high intellectuals, I could become anything I wanted in the world. And that was how I found the gift of chess. And that gift set my life on a much different trajectory. And I went to school, I finished school. Chess gave me a gift of seeing the world beyond the confines of my environment. The first time I left Ikorodu to another place was because we went for a tournament. And I began to see the world a little more differently because my parents couldn't give us certain experiences. But chess gave me that gift. And I went to school, I went on to college on a scholarship, I was on a college chess team, I went pro, I won a lot of tournaments, I was ranked one of the top players in the country, I got my national master title, my rating. And chess changed my life. But then we grew up in poverty, and that didn't change because at the end of the day, chess wasn't going to put food on the table. Because chess as a sport here is very undervalued. And there was no way you were going to make a living from just playing. If you were going to do that, you would need to travel to Europe and compete. And I had those dreams, to be a grandmaster. But that didn't happen, so I gave up. I retired in 2016. I said I wasn't going to do this chess again. I studied computer science. Let me go back to school, do another course, jackpot, and leave this wayward country. That was what I told myself then. I said I just wanted to leave. And I knew I was really smart. I had the gift of a photographic memory. And I wanted to do something different with my life. But then something happened again. And this singular incident led me to make the most important decision for my future. And this really hinges on what I said earlier about building a future that includes all of us. So on one of those days, I used to play piano in church, and I and my friends were just talking. And they would go to this Lungu, sorry, not your school, a place called Lungu then to smoke, it was a slum, a ghetto area. And on that day, I decided to go with them. And I was just sitting down. I didn't smoke, by the way. And they were smoking, and children too were there. And I saw little children smoking in that slum. It was not too far from where I grew up. And I had that moment of epiphany because it occurred to me that a lot of these children here, the reason why they don't have that sense of a higher purpose is because they cannot dream beyond what is achievable in their community. The idea of success could be one uncle that is a Yahoo boy that bought Benz or uses an iPhone. And the idea of success would always be limited to what they can see in their immediate environment. And I knew that I was once a child like that. The only thing that kept me from drugs was chess, because my mind was engaged with something very positive. And I saw myself as a different person from my other friends or the other young people that we grew up together. And I knew that these children were going to become victims of a tragedy that they know nothing about. And that tragedy is something a lot of us overlook because we've been shielded by our own privilege. And that tragedy is called the lottery of birth. That a child is born to poor parents and his entire life is defined by the opportunities that his parents can afford to give him. And most of the time, that child wouldn't get an education and get into drugs, become an area boy. We all know that story. But the story that we neglect is the intrinsic capacity that these children possess. And there's a lot of talk about how Africa has a lot of potential, But I tell you today that potential is nothing if it's not realized. And on that day, I realized that these children had capacity to do so much more. But they would never even know that there's so much more out there. They would never get to know the vast opportunities that exist in our universe. And on that day, I made a decision that I was going to come back there every week to teach them chess as a window to see the world differently, just like I had gotten the same opportunity. And I just told my friends, and we just kept coming back every week. A lot of the children were not going to school, And it just became a thing, and after some time, we gave it a name. Chess in Slums. And the children started playing really well. They got really good. And chess is a prestigious game, played by some of the most intelligent people around the world. But then the idea that children in poverty in some of the worst slums can gain mastery of it was novel, because how? When you're thinking about children in poverty, the image that comes to mind is a child that looks malnourished, or that is in tattered clothes and suffering. Give that child food, pity that child, charity and all of that. What do you mean chess?
Tunde
How chess
Onakoya,
put
he's
food
a
on the table?
Nigerian.
Someone asked. And this was my idea, my innovative idea, that I thought could shape the future. I didn't know how chess was going to put food on their table. One thing I knew was that if they were able to learn it and gain mastery of it, they were going to show the intellectual capacity to do something. That a child, even in poverty, can also be intellectually inclined. That child would be respected, not because of his or her background, but because of what he has the ability to do. Just like my dear friend Usman today. You will judge him not because of how he looks or where he's from, or if the name of his school is Lungu or whatever, but because of the incredible things that he has the capacity to do. And that premise changes the entire conversation. And until we began to see children beyond their background, beyond their circumstance, but to actually talk about the capacity that they have that is untapped, that is when we can truly understand how to build a future for them too. That is
National chess master and coach.
They got really good.
He's the convener of Chess
BBC saw it
In-Slum.
and they made a documentary and everyone saw it and they were like, wow, people started following. Then after some time, I would share the stories of these children. They were not in school, but listen, these children are showing great aptitude for chess. Now imagine if you give them access to education. Imagine if you give them access to technology. Imagine if you told them about the wonders of the internet. And people began to see beyond their poverty and began to see the incredible capacity they had. And they started getting scholarships. And they started getting scholarships to study abroad. And they started getting all of these opportunities. And it happened. And I was fulfilled. I wasn't earning from it, but it became my life's work. But then something else happened. Last year, December, I made another decision, which now turned out to be an even more important decision, maybe the best decision of my entire life. We decided to take that gift of chess that we had done for 3 years in Ikorodu and Makoko. Decided to take it to Oshodi under bridge, one of the most dangerous ghettos in Lagos. And I thought to myself that the area boy menace that we had in Lagos, where these people became tools in the hands of selfish politicians, And these people, how do they transcend their childhood? How do they lose that innocence and become thugs and hoodlums and area boys? They now become pawns in another man's game. Why were we not paying attention to that transition of a child to becoming an area boy? And we took a couple of chess sets and we went to Oshodi Under Bridge. And we said we're going to turn this place into a classroom for the children amongst them to learn. And we set up chess boards. And we talked to the area boys. They wanted to disturb us, It's a very volatile place where fights can just break out, and they've killed people there, they've stabbed people there, they've robbed people there. But we made them a part of the project team because they believed that they could contribute to something that transcended their own selfish interest. And we gathered 51 children, and the area boys became our volunteers. And we started teaching those street kids that lived on the bridge. And in a month, they learned chess. We didn't just teach them chess, we created a safe space for them to learn. Children that
from just
society as good for nothing. We took a chance on them and gave them the opportunity to showcase their gift and talents to the world. We taught them mental math. We organized a coding class for them. And these children that were once regarded as good for nothings began to show great capacity and mastery for all the skills. And the project was a phenomenal success story. And journalists from all over the world came down to Oshodi Under Bridge, the place that used to be known as a ghetto area, dangerous, that you must not even pass that night. World-renowned footballer Patrice Evra came all the way from the UK to Oshodi Under Bridge. The Canadian embassy called me and said, we'd like to host these boys. I said, no. The High Commissioner, sir, if you'd like to see these kids, come to Oshodi Under Bridge. Come and watch them. And the Canadian High Commissioner and the Royal Naval team, they came to learn chess from these kids at Oshodi Under Bridge. And for the first time, the world believed that it was possible to do great things from a small place. That greatness can be found even in the most unlikely places.
And the
one of those boys that we met at Oshodi Under Bridge, that was living on the bridge as a street kid that dropped out of school, is here with us today. Stand up. His name is Ojo Ayomide. Come. Let me show him off because I'm so proud of him. Not only is he a very strong chess player, he's also a software developer. You need to see the beautiful websites that he built using HTML and CSS. And he learned all of this in less than a year. And Ayomide was one of those boys, but today he's no longer an area boy. He's now a child that has the ability to change the world. So, not just Ayomide and 50 other children. We took them away, we got accommodation for a lot of them, connected some of them with their parents. We equipped them with skills, we sponsored all of them back to school, and we helped them find their way, their place in the world that is constantly evolving. Now, I had an idea that sounded very ridiculous. Chess could change the world. It wasn't ridiculous to me because maybe I was a little delusional, but I had faith. So I think the first thing to be able to really innovate, because it's one thing to innovate, then it's another thing to have the courage to see it through and to impress it on the world. The people that have achieved the greatest things in this world right now are not the people that are the best at what they do, are not the people that have built the best solutions, but the people that had the courage and the confidence to impress the world with their ideas and show up every day for those things that they had faith in. So have unwavering faith in what you do. Believe that what you have the capacity to do, no matter how little it is, matters to the world. Africa has to live up to its true potential. And that potential is resident in all of us. All of we young people, by the way, not the old man. I want you to believe that that future that includes all of us, belongs to us because we have what we call imagination. And every innovation thrives from that place of imagination. Even technology catches up to imagination. A lot of the modern technology we see now were things that were represented in movies years ago. So imagination has a responsibility. And for we young people, it is important that we dare to dream. We dare to imagine a Nigeria where our gifts, our talent, we're given an opportunity to showcase them, and we're given an opportunity to change the world, to do great things from a small place, to not just be concerned about our own desires or how I can make money, but to know that when you are able to use your ideas to solve an important problem, you're creating room for all of us. You're expanding those margins a little bit more for children like Ayomide to be a part of the future, for children like Usman to be a part of that future. So it is important that we're given the opportunity to bring these ideas to fruition, and I would like to plead with all our leaders here. You have a responsibility to these children, to all of us, to make sure that the only future we're dreaming of includes all of them too. Thank you very much.
I think you deserve a standing ovation. A round of applause once again. You can stand. It's okay.